Dear Matthew, I left home when I was around 15 going on 16 years old from New Jersey to Los Angeles. And I had a very difficult childhood at home with my step-parents and attempted to leave a few times. But this last time was my successful, this last time I was successful in running away. And I arrived in Los Angeles. When I arrived in Los Angeles, I was looking for jobs, a place to stay and all that. And I'd gone to the papers and I'd come across an advert about a studio apartment that two people shared and one person was leaving, and so they wanted to find another roommate to share the costs. And so I contacted the person, and when I contacted, it was Andy and his roommate. They were just roommates, Andy and Stan. And so I went to meet them, and they were staying at Fenmore Apartments on Sunset Boulevard in a studio, and Andy was moving over to East LA, and so he wanted a replacement. And so I was that replacement, and that's how we met and became friends. We were just friends. It was nothing more, but just friends, but I can say good friends. Andy did a lot of alcohol and some narcotics, which I didn't do any of that. So we connected with each other, not because of drinking or narcotics or any of those things. We connected because when I met Andy, I think he was around, in his early 20s, 23, 24, 25, something around there. And I was really young. And so I was impressed with Andy. He spoke well. He was very intelligent. He was worldly. He was exposed. He knew how to deal with people. He knew how to talk with people. He knew how to handle different scenarios. And he was also witty and very funny and a very engaging person. Quite a captivating person. And he had a great laugh. His laugh would just, melt the people around him. And so I didn't have a lot of money that time, and I was just working part-time. And I had very little money. So I had moved into that apartment in Fenmore, and sometimes Andy would call me up and we'd just go out and hang out together. And I found him to be a generous person. He was tall. I was tall. And he would lend me his clothes, shirts, pants, jackets, and I'd end up keeping them. He would just give them to me. And that time he'd made good money, and he had a lot more money than I did. And he had nice clothes. I mean, street clothes, but nice clothes. And he would always give it to me because I didn't have much. And I can see in that he was a generous person. When he would drink, or sometimes he'd relapse into doing his narcotics, it'd be a different Andy. It'd be a more hostile Andy. It would be an Andy that was more forgetful or not as attentive or not as alert. But I knew that wasn't him. I knew that was it was narcotics. But that was Andy's only downfall, if I can say, for lack of a better word, downfall, was that he was addicted to narcotics and, alcohol. But besides that, he was a good person. He was a deep person. He was a kind person. this is not something I'm just saying because someone has passed away, but this is how I really felt. And as a young kid, he made a very deep impression on me. And I didn't have a brother. I didn't have an older brother figure. I didn't have a father figure. I really didn't have an adult figure at my life at that time. And Andy kind of became like that. He became like my older brother, an adult figure. And he spent time with me, talked to me, and paid attention to me. And in hindsight now, I just realized that if he only had not taken all those intoxicants, Andy could have been much more than what he was. He would have enjoyed life more. He would have enjoyed his friends more. We would have been able to enjoy him more. But that's not to blame him or anything. Everybody has their problems. Everybody has their issues, you know. But luckily, Andy's issues never took away from who he was. And that was a good person. And I'm a Buddhist, and I was at a Buddhist center, and I would go for Buddhist teachings. And I remember Andy came with me once, and we attended the talks and the meditations together. I introduced him to my teacher, and he told me that he thinks he has found his faith, and that Buddhism really suited him. I was so happy for him because I wanted something to give him peace. There was something inside of him that used to bother him. I don't know what it was that would drive him to, take the intoxicants and kind of escape from whatever was bothering him inside. I was too young to ask deeper questions from an adult of what was bothering them and knowing that that was the reason people drank. I was too young for that. I didn't get to really examine that with him. It was too bad. So he told me that he would like to go for more meditation classes and all that, but he didn't because he started drinking again. I remained his friend. Sometimes I see him coherent and we hang out together, and sometimes I see him not coherent and he wouldn't want to hang out together. He'd want to be alone and go do his thing. Since then, in 1987, I left the United States and went to India and became a Buddhist monk, and I am still a Buddhist monk now. And I've never stopped thinking about a few persons that affected my life in my growing up years, impressionable years, in my young adult years. There's been a few persons that made a deep impression on me and I thought about and I didn't forget over the years. And Andy's one of them. So I didn't have much to go on. I just had some of his photos that he had given me. And the funny thing is we never even took a photo together. I didn't know where his family lived. I knew he was Native American. He told me he was Native American. I didn't know where his family lived. I didn't know where he came from. I didn't know what had happened to him. So I had very little to go on, and I was lucky that I was able to finally locate and find out about him. And sadly, I'm 2 years too late. 2 years, right?
No, but since 95, he was died in 95.
Well, too bad I am 24 years too late.
Yes.
Too bad I'm 24 years too late to find him. And I am really surprised that he had passed away at such a young age. I'm really, really surprised. I don't really know what to say about it. But I thought about him all these years. And writing this letter to you is almost like writing a letter to Andy. I wanted to tell Andy that he had made an impact on my life, although I was very young. I remember his generosity. I remember his friendship, his company, and that he paid attention to a little runaway kid. I wanted to see how he was now and to connect with him let him know what's up, what I'm doing, what is he doing. That's what I really wanted. But I guess it's not to be. And so for the last 30 years, I've been wondering what happened to him, where he was, how he was, among a few other people that I've been looking for that were friends of mine in LA. So I wanted to thank you for your assistance and letting me know what had happened to him, that he had passed away among friends, and that he had passed away and how old he was, and to send that picture of him. I've taken that picture of him and I placed it under a Buddha statue, and I've made my prayers to the Buddha to bless Andy to take a good rebirth, and that good things will happen for him in his future lives. I do appreciate very much you taking the time to let me know what had happened to him and a little information on him, because I absolutely had no one to contact and I don't have anyone to ask. And I guess it's kind of a closure to know what had happened to him. But then you don't really close, do you, on anyone? You don't really close, but it's kind of a closure to know what happened to a friend. And I guess I won't be searching for him anymore or wondering, but just kind of remembering who he was. So I appreciate your kindness and your time to let me know what's going on. And you are my prayers, and of course Andy is. And again, thank you for his picture. I really appreciated that. Seeing his picture really confirmed it was Andy, my friend back in the 80s that had passed away. And in the picture, he had gotten a little older than what I remember, but his eyes, his nose, his smile is exactly the same. It was the older brother that would have been nice to have had the older brother that I was looking for. Thank you again very much. Much appreciation, Tsem Rinpoche.